The autopilot is currently active, as denoted by its 3 green lights being on, but the throttle is under the pilot's control. Please, increase the throttle to maintain a speed between 0.65 to 0.75 Mach. Even if we have briefly operated the Viggens radio on prior training missions, this time we will focus on learning all aspects of the Viggens communication system, and practice its different ways of employment. We started this training already on the air, and we will cover the aspects indicated on the text below. This training series is set on the Nevada map, and the approximate mission time is 20 minutes. By default, the pilot's body is shown. You can use left shift plus P to hide it if you prefer. When a voiceover tells you to interact with a cockpit element, wait until the voiceover has finished, before performing the interaction. If you are repeating the mission, note that most voiceovers can be skipped just by pressing the spacebar. Press spacebar to begin. During the 60s, the AGA company was tasked with developing a VHF/UHF radio set to be used on the first generation Viggen, AJS37. It was designated FR22, and it was the first Swedish radio to cover the UHF band. For the second generation Viggen, the JA37, AGA developed a similar but much smaller radio, with the designation FR28, allowing the JA37 to have 2 identical radios to communicate, instead of the single unit that the AJS37 has. The AJS37 communication suite includes the following items: transceiver FR22 and switching unit FR22 on the avionics bay. Control panel FR22 mounted on the forward left console. VHF radio FR24 for emergency use on the avionics bay and left console. Manual frequency selector FR22 on the left instruments panel. Ground radio amplifier for the intercom system. A PKFL, integrated performance and fault test panel. This suite provided the following functions: voice communication airplane to airplane, voice communication airplane to ground, monitor guard channel, present audio signals from other equipment in the aircraft, like warning tones, intercommunication with ground personnel and GCI, through wire. Press spacebar to continue. FR22 main radio. It has 420 group presets, 420 airbases presets, for special presets, plus a manual frequency selector. It's powered from the AC bus and its specifications are shown on the text below. Press spacebar to continue. FR24 backup radio. It has 5 presets, one of which is the reserved guard channel, and its specifications are shown on the text below. Press spacebar to continue. Channel presets. A novelty in the FR22 was that all Air Force channels were pre-selected and organized into a group for airbase channels, and another for combat units channels, plus a special group for the most often needed radio channels. This allowed the pilot to remember just the shorter preset number, instead of an arbitrary 5 to 6 digit frequency. The FR22 had a whopping 844 preset frequencies, much greater than what DCS can currently simulate, so only a subset of these 844 presets are actually present on the simulator. On the real aircraft, each preset frequency was binary coded onto perforated mylar tape, and placed in the FR22 presets unit using special strip cassettes. The holes in the strips were illuminated in a precision mirror housing, whereby the holes in the strips let the light through to photoresistors and were converted into ones, while no light converted into a 0. Press spacebar to continue. The design of the Viggens radio was heavily oriented towards the use of preset channels, rather than having the pilot enter radio frequencies manually. However, the dash special preset allowed the use of the FR22 manual frequency panel, where the pilot could enter any desired UHF or VHF frequency, within the frequency limits of each band, and select either AM or FM modulation. Press spacebar to continue. On DCS, a flight is a unit of up to 4 aircrafts that share a common radio frequency, which we need to tune in order to impart orders to our wingman. As the Viggens FR24 emergency radio is a VHF-only unit, it is best to set this flight frequency within the range 110 to 147 MHz, with a 50 kHz channel separation, even if the FR22 has a wider range on its VHF band. This way, we will still be able to contact our wingman if the FR22 main radio fails. On this mission, we will use the 110.1 MHz frequency for our flight. When in single player, on the mission editor you would set the flight frequency on 2 places. For the artificial intelligence AI wingman, you would enter it on the frequency field, as shown on the figure. As soon as you update the frequency field, the mission editor automatically enters the same frequency on the Group 10-0 preset, as shown on the figure. This way, whenever you want to communicate with your flight members, using the FR22 main radio, just select that preset before pressing the FR22 Press to Talk, PTT button on the flight stick. In order to allow flight communication using the FR24 emergency radio, in case the main FR22 radio is inoperative, you need to set one of the 3 available presets of the FR24 to the flight frequency, as shown on the figure. For this mission, I have set preset E to our flight frequency of 110.10 MHz. You can note that I've also set the special preset 1 to the same flight frequency, for convenience and to later on demonstrate the use of the special presets. Press spacebar to continue. Let's try to communicate with our flight. First we need to select the Group 10-0 preset. Turn the highlighted group knob until 10 shows on the visor. You turn it using left mouse click for clockwise, or right mouse click for counterclockwise. Unlike other knobs on DCS, you can't turn it using the mouse wheel, nor click and drag. Please note that even if the group knob has 42 positions, only positions 10 to 13 can be assigned usable radio frequencies on DCS. Good, now press the highlighted button 0 of the group's presets. Note that on the FR22, any button pressed will release any prior button, only one button can be selected at any given time. Finally, check the highlighted knob. To ensure that the FR22 main radio is the active one, the selector has to be in one of the 2 normal positions. If the knob is set to H, E, F or G, then the active radio would be the FR24 backup VHF radio. Press spacebar once you have confirmed that the selector is at norm. Now that the radio is properly tuned, we just need to use the push-to-talk, PTT button on the flight stick, to contact our flight. Press the key or button that you have binded to the FR22 push-to-talk, on my case it's right Control plus P. The DCS communications menu should appear. Normally, the first line of the menu should state which radio we are using, FR22 or FR24, but a Vigan bug states simply AM radio in both cases. On DCS, a 4-ship flight is composed of 2 elements, with 2 aircrafts each. You are the lead of the first element, while your wingman is number 2. Aircrafts 3 and 4 can form the second element. The first 3 options of the DCS communications menu allows us to interact with our flight as follows. F1 contains the commands that you can give to your wingman, like navigation orders, engage any contacts, and perform tactical maneuvers. F2 contains commands that you can give to the flight as a whole, which includes the same as for the wingman, plus commands for formation keeping. F3 contains commands directed only to the second element of your flight, which are similar to those for the wingman, but that will be carried out only by the second element. Press spacebar to continue. As an exercise, let's change the flight formation. Select F2, Flight. F5, Formation. F1, Go line abreast. Note that the DCS communications menu closes as soon as you emit an order. You can press F2 now to watch the aircrafts on external view. Successive F2 presses will move the camera from one aircraft to the next. Press F1 to return to cockpit view. Press spacebar once all the flight members acknowledge the instruction. For a second exercise, let's now send the second element back to base. Press the PTT button on the flight stick again. The DCS communications menu should appear once again. To command the second element, select F3, second element. F1, navigation. F2, return to base. As before, the DCS communications menu closes as soon as you emit the order. Press spacebar once both members of the second element acknowledge the instruction. For a final exercise with flight communication, let's now instruct our wingman to check for enemies to our right. Press the PTT button on the flight stick. The DCS communications menu should appear once again. To order the wingman, select F1, wingman. F4, maneuvers. F7, clear right. Upon receipt of the instruction, your wingman will acknowledge and begin a turn towards the right. Okay. Let's bring the wingman back. Press the PTT button on the flight stick to contact him. The DCS communications menu appears again. Select F1, wingman. F5, rejoin formation. Press spacebar once your wingman acknowledges and begins to return to form at your side. On DCS, each air group and even some ground units can have a radio frequency assigned on the mission editor, but on single-player DCS you can only communicate with a few special assets, like AWACS and tanker aircrafts, or forward air controllers, FAC. The procedure is very similar to how you communicate with your own flight. You just have to select the radio preset that matches their frequency. On a well-designed DCS mission, the briefing would list the presets or frequencies of other units, and you can query the kneeboard with right shift plus K for a list of which frequencies have been defined on each radio preset. Press spacebar. As an example, let's contact our coalition AWACS, Airborne Early Warning and Control System. From the briefing, we know its radio frequency is 265.65 MHz. On real life we would use encrypted communications, but that facet is not yet simulated on DCS. On the kneeboard, we can see which group's preset corresponds to the AWACS frequency. For our mission it is preset 10.2, so you need to select the group 10.2 preset. Turn the highlighted group knob until 10 shows on the visor. It should be already on that position from our prior exercise. Next, press the highlighted button 2 on the group's presets. Now that the radio is properly tuned, press the PTT button on the flight stick to contact AWACS. The DCS communications menu will appear. To contact AWACS, select F7, AWACS. This menu option shows a submenu with all the requests you can ask from AWACS, which are shown on the figure at left. Select any request, for example F1, vector to bullseye.
Overlord,
Press spacebar once AWACS has answered, which may take a few seconds.
Uzi, 1-1, Overlord, 3-1, bullseye, 007, 4286.
Contact tanker, while there is a tanker aircraft nearby, and we have a radio preset for it, 10.3. On DCS the tanker will not answer to aircrafts that don't have a refueling probe compatible with their drogue, and of course the Viggen doesn't have any. Press spacebar to continue.
Texaco, 1-1, Uzi, 1-1, request rejoin.
On DCS, almost any ground unit can operate as a forward air controller, FAC, and could provide the Viggen with target coordinates or lay smoke. Unfortunately, a bug prevents the FAC from giving any tasking to the Viggen. This bug is being tracked and hopefully it will be fixed on the future. Even so, we will still practice to radio contact to FAC, so that you learn how it should be done. From our briefing we can see that the FAC frequency is 264.50 MHz. On the kneeboard, we can see which group's preset corresponds to the FAC frequency, and on this case corresponds to preset 10.1. Turn the highlighted group knob until 10 shows on the visor. It should be already on that position from our prior exercise. Next, press the highlighted button 1 on the group's presets. Now that the radio is properly tuned, press the PTT button on the flight stick to contact the FAC. The DCS communications menu shows up. To contact the FAC, select F4, JTAC. JTAC stands for Joint Terminal Attack Controller, and is the US equivalent for the NATO term FAC. F4 will open a submenu, where you can check in with the FAC. Select the item that matches the approximate time that it would take to reach the FAC area. For this example select F1, check in 15 minutes. The menu will disappear, and you will hear yourself giving the FAC your current status and weapons available. Press spacebar once the FAC has answered, which may take a few seconds. Due to the aforementioned bug, it will not task you with any target.
Uzi, 1-1, no further tasking available. Thanks for the support. You may depart.
In the Swedish Air Force, each air base was assigned a number. 1 was Västerås, 7 was Satinas, 16 was Uppsala, etc. This same number was used to designate each air wing, so F7 was at Satinas, F16 at Uppsala, and so on. These number designations were so commonly used in Swedish press and media that they were easy for an Air Force pilot to remember when they were flying the Viggen. So, for example, if you were flying from F7 Satinas, you simply selected 7 on the radio's base selector knob. On the Viggen, to learn which airbase numbers have been assigned on the current map, you can check the knee board, where the airbases page will list all airbases, ordered by their base identification number. Once the airbase was selected on the base knob, the A to D buttons select a preset to reach the base diverse services, shown on the figure at left. Sadly, DCS can't truly portray how these base channels were used in real life, so it just pairs them to the various ATC frequencies of each base, which means that all these buttons essentially will contact you with the same DCS ATC. Also, please note that currently, a DCS bug allows presets C and C2 to successfully communicate with the DCS ATC, in spite of not using frequencies within the VHF or UHF bands of the radio. Press spacebar to continue. We will now practice the communication with an airbase. Let's contact Nellis Air Force Base. To select the proper preset, first turn the base selector knob until the visor to its right shows the desired airbase identification number. The knob has 84 positions, which allow access to base presets 01 to 69 of the FR22 main radio. Every 6 positions there is one marked All M, which allow you to select the FR24 backup radio presets G, F, and E by pushing the buttons A/G, C/F, or D/E respectively. To contact Nellis, turn the knob until the visor shows 04. Next, press the corresponding base service selector button. On real life, to reach the ATC you would press A/G, but on DCS you can employ A/G to reach ATC on UHF, or press B to use VHF, which has a slighter longer range. For this exercise, press the B button. Now that the radio is properly tuned, press the PTT button on the flight stick to contact Nellis. The DCS communications menu should appear. To reach Nellis Air Traffic Control, select F5, ATC. Even though on the radio you have selected one of Nellis presets, DCS doesn't really know which airbase you want to contact, so on the main ATC submenu you need to select the F key corresponding to Nellis. On the ATC Nellis submenu, select F2, Request Azimuth. After a few seconds, ATC should answer with the heading you must fly if you want to reach Nellis. Please do not turn the aircraft, we are just practicing with the radio. Press spacebar to continue. Besides the group and bases presets, the FR22 main radio provides for 3 extra preset radio channels, which can be called up without having to turn a knob first, so they are ideal for the most frequently used radio frequencies that we might need. They are arranged on what is called the Special Presets section of the main radio panel. For this mission, on the mission editor I have set the special presets to the following frequencies. Special 1, Flight Frequency. Special 2, Destination Airbase, Tonopah Test Range. Special 3, Alternate Airbase, Creech. The 2 remaining buttons on the Special Presets section are H, VHF Guard Channel, 121.5 MHz. Dash, the dash button bypasses any selected preset and enables instead the manual frequency selector on the front panel. Press spacebar to continue. As an exercise, let's employ one special preset. Our destination airbase, Tonopah Test Range, is still too far out of radio range, so we will contact the alternate Creech airbase instead. Now press the FR22 PTT button on the flight stick to contact Creech. On the DCS Communications menu, select F5, ATC. On the main ATC submenu, select the F key corresponding to Creech. On the ATC Creech submenu, select F1, Inbound. After a few seconds, Creech ATC should answer with the heading and distance to the descent point, the current QFE at the airbase, and the runway that has been assigned.
Uzi,
Press spacebar
1-1.
to continue.
Request navigation assistance. Uzi, 1-1. ADS, you're heading
While the Vigan main radio is focused on employing preset frequencies, you still can use a manual custom frequency if the need arises. As an example, let's manually tune an FM music station that I have set up at Las Vegas. First, use the panel knobs to set the 103.025 MHz manual frequency. Note that the default frequency on the visor, 123.456 MHz, is bugged, as it is an invalid VHF frequency. Good, now set the modulation selector to FM. Finally, press the minus special preset, the music should be heard. You don't need the PTT as it is only required when you transmit on that frequency, not when you are just receiving. With the highlighted knob, you can adjust the audio volume of the radio. If the station is not heard, it may be out of range, as the FM transmission requires line of sight to the station. Press spacebar to continue. Even if the Vigan can use only a single radio at a time, it does have the FR24 radio as a backup in case the FR22 main radio fails. To transmit with the backup radio, you just use the radio mode selector and set it to either the E, F, or G preset positions. For this mission, I've programmed the preset frequencies as follows. Preset E, our flight frequency, 110.1 MHz. Preset F, emergency airbase, Nellis, 132.5 MHz. Preset G, destination airbase, Tonopah test range, 124.7 MHz. The main radio will fail within the next few seconds, wait a bit. Our main radio has just failed. You can confirm by trying to reach our wingman on the special 1 preset. To enable the backup radio, turn the highlighted knob to preset E, our flight frequency. To transmit, you need to use the push-to-talk PTT button on the FR24 panel, as the PTT on the flight stick is only for the main radio. Unfortunately, on the Vigan the PTT button of the FR24 radio is not clickable with the mouse. You are forced to press the key that you have binded to the FR24 PTT, on my case it's left plus Alt plus P. Press the key now. The DCS communications menu should open, just like it did when we were using the main radio, but this time we are using the backup radio. To test our communication with the wingman, select F1, Wingman. F4, Maneuvers. F7, Clear Right. Upon receipt of the instruction, your wingman should acknowledge and begin the requested maneuver. If there is no answer, recheck that you have in fact selected the correct preset E. Okay, let's bring the wingman back. Press the FR24 PTT button by pressing its binding key to contact him. The DCS communications menu appears again. Select F1, Wingman. F5, Rejoin formation.
2, join up.
Press spacebar once your wingman acknowledges and begins to return to form at your side. Back on the cold start training mission, we did a full review of the intercom of the real Vigan and how it was implemented on DCS. Basically, it's a wired interphone that allows the pilot to interact with the ground crew when the aircraft is on the ramp. On the DCS simulation of the Vigan, you would press the highlighted button to use the intercom to contact the ground crew. Unfortunately, this button has a bug and it does not function. You are forced to use the keyboard / key. The intercom can be used with the canopy open or closed, and it works even when the aircraft is completely dark, as it operates from battery power. As we are currently in flight, we can't really demonstrate the intercom employment, but the figure shows the communications menu used to interact with the ground crew. Press spacebar to continue. Excellent. You have successfully completed this training mission on the employment of the communication systems of the Vigan. Press spacebar to exit from the mission.